I'm going to talk about a liquid sheet breakup in the presence of acoustic field, and I'm from IIT Bombay. Many of you may be aware of the processes that are happening in a typical liquid fuel combustor. Here in case it is a liquid propellant rocket, you can have a atomization of the propellants, vaporization, mixing and combustion. And the engines of this kind are always associated with a characteristic pressure field or acoustic field. If the heat release from the propellant and the pressure field present inside the combustor are in phase, then there are chances that the pressure field will grow with time and the engine may go into the unstable combustion mode as per the Rayleigh criteria. Right. So the literature shows that there is always a closed loop feedback system between the heat release from the propellant, acoustic oscillations which lead to the perturbations in the mixture preparation of the propellants, and which again affect the heat release. So the main cause for the variation in the mixture ratios and ultimately the heat release pattern comes from the behavior of the atomization process, and hence it is always advisable to characterize each and every process and how it behaves in the presence of the varying pressure field. So this is a broad motivation. With this motivation, we started our experimental work on how the impinging jet atomizers, which are known to respond very rapidly to the pressure oscillations present in the combustion chamber, to investigate the effect of acoustics on the breakup characteristics over a range of frequency and sound intensities, and to identify different breakup mechanism or instabilities in various frequency ranges. Okay. Although the things that are presented here are very much simpler done in a academic laboratory as compared to what is done in the actual rocket engine scale thing, but these things I think will provide us the understanding between the acoustics and the sheet breakup phenomena and how the coupling works. So this is a experimental setup. I will quickly tell. So we use impinging jet injectors where these two jets impinge at a point and it forms a planar two-dimensional liquid sheet which finally breaks up into the droplets. This liquid sheet is forced with the help of the loudspeaker with known frequencies and known sound pressure levels, or dB levels you can say, such that the pressure acting from the acoustic is normal to the surface of the liquid sheet. In order to increase the range of Weber numbers over which we can do the experiment, we use typically in these experiments a mixture of water and glycerol because it is a high viscosity liquid. So we can increase the range of Weber number till 1000 by still making the liquid sheet smooth, so that we can only analyze the effect of the external forcing without having the effects of turbulence and other thing. You can see the Reynolds number is only limited to the 175. So the liquid sheet is very smooth and the only effects that we are going to see is because of the external forcing. So one of the other parameters that we may vary later is the angle between these two jets that I will going to talk about sometime later. And basically we rely on the high speed imaging of the liquid sheet when it is forced with the acoustics from various angles to get the insights into how the instabilities grow over the sheet and the measurements related to instabilities and so on. So we capture the front views of the sheet from two different perspectives. We also capture the side views of the sheet where it shows the amplification of the instabilities and so on, and we analyze those raw data in order to get the fine-tuned results that you are going to see next. So initially I will just describe the experimental observations with some quantitative data of how the things work, and later on we will discuss on the consequences of the acoustic forcing. Let me see if these videos work here. It's not working. Huh? Escape. Control. Run from the folder. Okay. Okay. So let's see the first video. What you will see is that it's a only surface tension driven the breakup, a liquid sheet, and right now it is not forced with the acoustic field. You will see the very symmetric patterns of the standing waves sitting on the surface of the liquid sheet, and as soon as you will immediately notice the difference when it is forced, the pattern gets distorted. However, there is no major change in the characteristics of the sheet, in the sense the sheet length and rest of the properties remain same. So for such low inertia sheet, the acoustics doesn't play a much role, or it doesn't affect the things. Let us take this kind of sheet. This is a relatively higher Weber number, and you will see that when the acoustics is switched on, the sheet starting to break up very violently as compared to the unforced condition. Okay, so these are some qualitative pictures. I will come to some quantitative details in some time. And at some higher frequency, this is natural breakup, and as soon as acoustics is turned on, you will see a series of waves start generating, or amplified waves which we can easily visualize from this thing. So coming back to the discussion, one thing that we can observe here is that as we increase the frequency, this is for some typical Weber number 104 and 297. As we increase the frequency, we can immediately see that the wavelength of the waves decreases in both the cases, and we also measured the frequency of generation of these waves when it is forced, and we observed that the forcing frequency and the frequency present on the liquid sheet, they match when the liquid sheet is forced with the external. So basically the evolution of the instability is now getting coupled with the frequency of whatever external perturbation we are imposing. A simple force balance, if you do at the surface of the sheet, P is the RMS sound pressure level that is generated from the acoustic forcing. So omega is the forcing frequency. P cos omega t into surface area of the liquid sheet goes like A into H. H is the liquid sheet thickness, density rho, and the acceleration. So now if you see here, the left hand picture shows the unexcited condition where the sheet is completely present in a single plane, and when it is forced, what happens is this pressure acting because of the sound, it perturbs the liquid sheet in a direction normal to the sheet surface. So that perturbation creates the acceleration of the sheet surface in normal direction, which ultimately gives rise to different types of instabilities like Kelvin-Helmholtz or Rayleigh-Taylor instabilities and this thing. The nature of the acoustic forcing is also important. Suppose if we keep the dB level constant and just go on increasing the frequency of the forcing, we can see that the perturbation or other air particle displacement. So sound wave is nothing but propagation of the longitudinal waves where the air or the layers of air, they vibrate in the longitudinal direction. So that displacement of air particle basically transfers the momentum to the liquid sheet to displace in the sheet normal direction, and that displacement goes like inversely with the omega square or the frequency square from this. So it is important to note that as we go on increasing the frequency of forcing, the external perturbation amplitude over the sheet is also decreasing with square of the perturbation frequency. Now what is, or how will we quantify the effect of forcing? So you will see that the first noticeable change in the liquid sheet is the length from this impingement point, which we call as breakup length in the literature. So it decreases drastically when the acoustics is switched on. So to start with, the response of the liquid sheet to the acoustic frequencies is determined based on the how much reduction in this breakup length is taking place. And based on the uncertainty of our data, which is of the order of 2 to 3%, to keep a safer margin, we say that if the reduction in the breakup length is more than 5%, then we will say that the liquid sheet is responding to the external acoustic field. So this data shows for different Weber numbers. So L by L naught is the breakup length with unperturbed condition, L is with forced condition. So 95% line shows the benchmark for classifying whether the sheet is responding or not responding. All the points lying below 95% thing are the frequencies for which the sheet is said to be responding to the external acoustics, right? So for different Weber numbers, we will see that it gradually increases, and at certain frequency and beyond that, the sheet stops responding in terms of reduction in breakup length, right? So if we try to plot that non-dimensional frequency with Weber number, you will see that frequency increases with Weber number, and that is what it is plotted here. Basically, these frequencies tell us whether the forcing is stable or unstable. So below these frequencies, everywhere the breakup length decreases than the desired value. So we call this forcing as unstable forcing. If the frequency is higher, for those frequencies the sheet does not respond in terms of the breakup length, so we will call it as the stable forcing, and this demarking line is what we call as the cutoff frequency, right? So you should keep in mind the word cutoff frequency because it may come later in some other context. This close-ups of the liquid sheet in various parts of the sheet shows how the sheet breaks when it is not excited and when it is forced. Figures A and C shows the rim portion of the liquid sheet and the bottom portion of the liquid sheet, how it breaks naturally. Same locations, how the sheet breaks in the action of the acoustic force. So there is considerable difference, only basically the qualitative difference, but quantitatively we can get by calculating the mean drop size that it is generating from the thing. Okay, the first point if you see on the y-axis is for the natural breakup when we are not exciting it, the mean diameter of the droplets, and then we are calculating from 100 Hz how the drop size changes, mean drop size with frequency. What we will see here is there is a sharp decrease in the mean drop size when the acoustic forcing is on, and as the frequency increases, the mean drop size also increases, and after certain frequency it becomes almost saturated. So again, our observation tells that the frequency beyond which it gets saturated is something what we already called as cutoff frequency. So again, across the cutoff frequency, not only breakup length but also drop size also gets affected because of the acoustic forcing. This shows the drop size distribution and the reason for why there is decrease in the drop size. You will see that from the natural breakup to the forced breakup, the peak of the smallest droplets is increasing as we are going from the unexcited condition to the forced condition. We also try to employ the existing stability analysis for the liquid sheet to arrive at whether we can get something out of that. So basically, without going into much details, this is the dispersion relation. What we can predict from here is cutoff frequency, the amplitude, wave amplitude growth, and the maximum amplitude. So we just try to compare it with our data. The maximum amplitude AM by initial amplitude A naught, it matches reasonably well with the measured values, the prediction from the linear theory. And these are the sheet envelopes where we superimpose 500 images taken from high-speed camera, and then we create the envelope like this to see how the instability grows or the amplitude grows spatially with distance from the impingement. So from here you can notice that there can be high frequencies like above 960, that is 980,000, where the amplitude, non-dimensional amplitude growth is almost saturated. But at lower frequencies below than 960 for this particular Weber number, you will see that there is growth of this first peak that is observed from this thing. So one of the paper in literature says that a cutoff frequency should be defined based on this amplitude growth. A cutoff frequency is the frequency beyond which the growth rate, non-dimensional growth rate saturates. This is a theoretical paper and the definition is made simply based on the linear theory. So we also plotted the cutoff frequencies obtained from this definition, and this is how the plot looks like. So this is our cutoff frequency which we defined earlier These are the frequencies defined using the theory in literature, and we exist that even though they are behaving qualitatively similar, there is a big difference between these two cutoff frequencies. So what we call lower frequency as lower cutoff frequency and this frequency as upper cutoff frequency. So far we have developed the understanding that there can be different cutoff frequencies which can be defined based on the forcing frequency, but we really do not know what are the breakup or the dominant instabilities that cause breakup in different regions of this plot. That means below lower cutoff frequency, in between these two cutoff frequencies, and beyond the upper cutoff frequency. And that is what the next part of this study deals with. So here we extend the experiments with different impingement angles. So along with Weber number, we also vary the impingement angle between the two jets, and we try to identify various instabilities in different frequency ranges and transitions. So just to give you nomenclature, this is the unexcited condition, this is the forcing acoustics from normal to the sheet, this is how the behavior of the sheet looks like at certain frequency, and this is the envelope of the sheet by superimposing 500 images. This envelope gives us the maximum amplitude, A max. It also gives us the location of maximum amplitude from the impingement point, which are relevant for calculating the spatial growth rate of the instabilities. Okay, so what are different types of patterns that we observe? Okay, in one pattern we see that for certain frequencies the liquid sheet flaps violently normal to its surface, which we call as a flapping flag type of instability. At certain other frequencies it shows not that much vigorous flapping, but a very much sinusoidal kind of wave, which is typically termed in literature as sinus instability of liquid sheet. And at some different frequencies you will see that the liquid sheet, instead of showing such growth of the instability waves, it simply vibrates like a membrane, a stretched membrane, and if you put the impact how it vibrates, it just vibrates like that, so we call it as vibrating membrane type of instability. So again there are videos, just a second. So this is the flapping flag type of instability. You will see that there is a significant growth of the waves that are originated because of the acoustics. Then at some other frequency you will see a sinus type of instability where there is no growth in this part, only at the bottom you will see the waves are amplifying, but the amplification is not that high. And then this vibrating membrane type of instability is almost like unexcited state. You will see some of the waves that are at the very bottom end of the sheet, but overall the sheet is as good as unperturbed. So these things happen with increase in the frequency. So you will see that 100 Hertz, 280 Hertz, 460 Hertz, different types of patterns are observed, and these transitions take place with increase in the forcing frequency. Now, depending upon the type of the breakup, flag or sinus, there can be difference in how the droplets are forming from the bottom part of the sheet. When there is a flag type of instability, the liquid sheet flaps violently. The curvature of the present on the liquid sheet because of the very high amplitude oscillations stretches the liquid membrane and forms the droplets from the continuous lamina that are shed from the liquid surface. Whereas in case of sinus type of instability, since it is a wavy instability, there can be the existence of wave shedding. The rim is getting broken down by Rayleigh-Plateau instability, and because of the sheet, which is a denser material accelerated in the air, you can have existence of Rayleigh-Taylor instability in the form of these transverse undulations on the sheet. So a combined effect of all these instabilities essentially gives the drop size that we are observing in the sinus type of instability. So in order to characterize In order to characterize the transitions across these two instabilities objectively, what we use is the wave aspect ratio. So it is said in the literature that for a naturally breaking up liquid sheet, this wave aspect ratio, that is the maximum amplitude of the instability waves to the wavelength, that is more or less constant. So we tried to plot the wave aspect ratio for different forcing conditions. X-axis is frequency and this is the aspect ratio, and we will see that the aspect ratio increases and decreases in all the 3 Weber numbers that we have tested here. Okay, and where this increase and decrease is changed is what is the transition frequency that we are observing. That is, below the transition frequency we observe the flag type of instability. Beyond that we observe the sinuous type of instability, right? And if we see the wave envelope for flag type of instability and sinuous type of instability, you will see the envelope is completely diverging like this, whereas in sinuous instability it is diverging, converging, and correspondingly you will see the plot, non-dimensional wave growth rate plot like this, where it is completely diverging, it's not turning back, here it is increasing and decreasing kind of instability, right? So we also argue that the critical length, which is defined by the linear theory, is function of Weber number and frequency, and critical length is that length over which the liquid sheet is unstable, or it shows the amplification of waves and beyond which the wave growth saturates. So we argue that if the critical length xc, if it is 2 times the breakup length of the unexcited condition, we may get a frequency which can be treated as transition frequency, and this plot shows combined results so far. The black line and red line are lower and upper cutoff frequencies for different Weber numbers. The dotted line shows the transition frequency between flapping flag and sinuous. The black symbols represent the transition frequency obtained using the frequency formula that we have derived here, and they match really well. So essentially we can say that the transition frequency in the first regime, flapping flag to sinuous, is lower than the lower cutoff frequency. That is, below the lower cutoff frequency, the breakup is dominated by these 2 type of instabilities. Now if you go and if we see the literature, various groups across the world have argued various effects that cause the breakup of the liquid sheet. So one, the oldest theory says that the aerodynamic interaction between the moving liquid sheet and the surrounding gaseous medium, that causes the breakup of liquid sheet, which is famous from 1950s when Square first derived it. It was inviscid stability theory. In last 10 years, there is another theory that that has people have argued, which is the sheet thinning effect. So the sheet that we are considering, it is attenuating sheets. So from the impingement point, the sheet thickness decreases as we go far, right? So people argue that the thinning is mainly dominating the breakup of the liquid sheet, irrespective of how it interacts with the surrounding medium. So there are 2 different perspectives of looking at the problem, and then there is third theory that it's aerodynamic effect, but with the inclusion of viscous effect of the gases that causes the breakup. So let's see how in different frequency regimes the things work out. So again, we don't go in details. These are different dispersion relation for 3 theories that I mentioned. This is inviscid theory, this is the thinning effect theory, and this is the Sommerfeld equation for viscous effects for the sheet breakup. This is how we calculate the growth rate from experimental measurement. So basically we calculate the maximum amplitude and its location from the impingement point, and we take the tan inverse of that, assuming that the growth is taking place linearly from the impingement point till the maximum amplitude point, and we calculate the spatial growth rate and plot it like this. So just I have marked the experimental growth rate for different Weber numbers, as well as h is equal to d square by some constant into x, that gives the thickness variation, because we are also considering the thinning effect in this. So for different thickness variations as well, right? So I also marked the transition between flag and sinuous, just to show in a later slide that I have also plotted the experimental growth rates against the growth rate calculated from the dispersion relation that I have shown earlier. The continuous line represents the viscous effect or the viscous aerodynamic theory. The squares represent inviscid or squares theory. The triangles represent the thinning theory, and these are the experimental growth rate. So what we observe here is, yeah, I still have 2 minutes, right? Yeah. What we observe here, the dotted line, vertical line represent the transition frequency. We see that before transition frequency, when there is large amplitude oscillations, there are essentially non-linear effects present, and the linear theory does not predict the instability behavior. The growth rates are much larger than any theory that is predicting the growth rate. Okay. In Sinius regime, the growth rates are relatively matching with the viscous theory of the Stokes. Okay. And at certain frequencies, the growth rates are become saturated and they are going towards the thinning theory effects. So there are frequency ranges in which that different theories or different dominant mechanisms that may be playing part in breaking up the sheet. Maybe I will skip these things. We can generate this kind of plot where the region, this region shows the effect of the aerodynamic interaction is dominant. This region shows the effect of thinning effect is dominant, and this plot we can obtain by comparing the growth rates of the two theories, and we can get a critical Weber number below which only the thinning effect dominates. So these data points show where we have done the experiments and where the cutoff frequencies are lying. So let me show you some pictures in various frequencies and Weber number regions how the sheet behavior looks like. So at this very low Weber number, for all frequencies, the sheet does not show any perturbation. At relatively aerodynamic region, the sheet shows this kind of amplification of the waves. So essentially, the argument is that the thinning theory does not relate to the amplification of instability waves like what aerodynamic interaction presents. So, and this is validated for different Weber numbers also. I'll come to the final picture. So the final picture of what the study shows is that there is an envelope in which there is aerodynamic effects is important, rest of the part there is thinning effect is important on frequency and Weber number space. L1 line represents the transition across flapping to Sinius type of instability. L2 line represents lower cutoff frequency, which is also the transition between Sinius to vibrating membrane type of instability, and L3 line shows the cutoff or rather upper cutoff frequency. Where the line L3 lies, that depends on the thickness parameter which we are mentioning here, epsilon. Right. So depending upon the thickness parameter and the range of frequencies and Weber numbers you are working, you can find out which theory to be applied for modeling the effects of the forcing. These are some of the references from where I have taken the equations of dispersion relation and this thing. And this is the student who worked on this problem in my lab. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Professor Gadgil, and we can have few questions.
Thank you, Professor Gadgil. Yeah. Very interesting experiments. I have two questions. Like one is, did you try to see the behavior of these sheets when you change the amplitude of the forcing?
So amplitude of forcing in our experiment is not controlled explicitly. What we can control is the dB level and the frequency. So most of the experiments are done at maximum dB level that the speaker can give. But the amplitude of perturbation, as I told, it goes inversely with the square of the frequency. So for a given dB level, if the frequency is increasing, the perturbation also goes down.
Okay. And my second question is, in some of the videos that you showed, like we could see the intensity of light changing as well. What was the reason for that?
So the background illumination that was generated is from the LED light that we purchased from the local market, and it was not giving a continuous illumination throughout the capturing. So now we have replaced it with the sink LED lights. So now in the next set of experiments, maybe better contrast or the better brightness will be maintained throughout the images.
I thought it was
No, no.
something to do with the forcing.
nothing.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we have three regimes. One is Newtonian fluid regime. The other is
sorry?
Sir, when we talk about fluids, we talk about Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids, and there are certain classification where we talk about thixotropic materials.
Okay.
So we are obviously not talking about thixotropic material because they are very hard to simulate, means like the conditions.
Okay.
So in which regime you want to keep your study, means like because
So whatever studies or the theories that are shown here, those are explicitly for Newtonian liquids, for
Because
whom the
as-
viscosity is constant.
yes.
So it is too early to comment for me how they can be directly implemented for non-Newtonian behavior.
Yes, sir.
So I
because,
cannot comment.
as that changes, these property will be changing. Sir, other question is there is a way by which we can control flow of a fluid with the help of acoustics?
You cannot. I am not aware of how you can control the flow using the acoustics.
Means in your experiment, if there was a smaller case, means like with the help of acoustic, you would be able to change something.
So depending upon the flow situation, you have to see first the effects of acoustics and under which frequency it changes the flow. For example, if you see the laminar sheets, smooth sheets like this, you see that there is a continuous spectrum of the frequencies over which the sheet is responding to the frequencies, okay, and beyond which it does not respond. But our experiment also shows that if we use the turbulent sheet like pure water or the fluid properties which are matching with the actual liquid propellants, okay, for the turbulent sheets, when we put on the acoustics, there is no continuous spectrum of the frequencies over which it responds. There are only discrete frequencies at which the sheet responds, okay. So the controlling any kind of flow with acoustics, it needs first a systematic study, and further it depends on the kinds of flow that you are dealing with, whether it is laminar, turbulent, multi-phase, single phase, what kind of flow you are talking about.
So because if that would be possible, the drug delivery in the veins would be, means like easier one and safer one.
Yeah, I have no comment.
Any other question? Yeah, one more question.
Myself, Dr. Rupesh Shah. Sir, you started your talk with a picture of that combustor.
Right,
And you say that this has an application to the combustor.
right. So
So my question is, if somebody don't consider the seed breakup effect of the acoustic, if when he does the simulation, and with consideration if he does the simulation, what will be the difference in the performance of a combustor?
in a sense, the atomization or simulation of atomization
Yeah.
using acoustics and without
Yeah.
acoustics.
Because ultimately the injectors are designed to atomize the fuel.
Right. So let me give you the background. The work was initiated with the flow conditions that we may come across in the combustors. So we started the experiments with the water sheets, which for such Weber number used turbulent sheets. So when we try to characterize the effects of acoustics, we saw that the response was at some discrete frequencies, and those discrete frequencies are not multiples of each other, so there cannot be any coupling related effects that we can argue with. Later on we switch on to a different liquid to see if we die down the turbulent perturbations and only see the effect of acoustics with using a smooth laminar sheet, whether we can get some logical answers or a comparable predictions with the theory or not. So the set of results that I have shown may not be directly or as it is employed to a liquid rocket combustors. More realistic things is to use turbulent sheets, but more than experiments, there are no reasons to the question that why only discrete few particular frequencies are affecting the liquid sheet. We started with seeing with the laminar sheet. So it is too early to directly correlate this to the rocket engine combustors that I know. But this gives us at least the fundamental understanding that if there is only acoustics that is causing the perturbation, what can be the effects?
All right, so I think we have to wrap up the session.